So,
Hi. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is our weekly live training inside of the Animal Communication Circle, which is a free Facebook group. And I love these trainings because they're not too long, they're bite size. And I try to um, create them around something that you can do easily on your own, and apply without having to have a lot of concept behind it, right? So I really like to give you tools and things that you can try, little practices that you can try. The other piece that I often bring into these trainings are the questions that might come up for you around interspecies communication that you don't get to talk about in other circles, right? Like you don't get to talk about at family dinner or when you're taking your kids to the park or wherever you may go, right? Like these concepts and ideas and experiences and expectations and wishes and desires and understandings that come around interspecies communication and understanding the animals we partner with and live with more clearly. Yeah, and I'm always looking for ideas, right? I'm always looking for what you want to know and what you want to hear about. So if you have topics and things that you want to hear about, post them in the group, in the Facebook group, and I'll bring them here. So what I wanted to give you today is a daily practice that you can use that will completely, if you use it, it will completely open and start to shift your ability to receive telepathic communication from animals through your senses. And as I'm saying that, and as I wrote about that when I posted this as the topic last week, I'm like, oh, that's a big, big give, right? Like, oh, can I really deliver on that? And you know what? I know I can. I know that this is it. I know that this is a key if you let it happen, if you work it and you let it work for you. And so, what I want to do to start is explain about how telepathy comes through our senses, describing those. And then I want to give you, Marcy's here too. And then I want to give you the practice that you can do every day and, um, and let it be fun. So, telepathy and the senses, they are integral. They are married, right? And I just said this thing today. I said communication is clunky without telepathy. And I believe that to be so true. When you think about communication, that when you are not feeling connected with someone, when you are not necessarily feeling an intuitive, a heart space connection, intuitive connection, or a sensory connection with someone, communication can get really clunky and clumsy and um, uh, what do I want to say? Inconsistent, right? But when we add in a heart connection, sensory connection, and intuitive connection, which all of those things go together. They can be separated out, but they all go together. Communication gets really, really clear. And this is why we often feel the most understood by the animals in our lives because they're receiving us telepathically, right? And they're not distracted by what we're wearing or what we're saying or what we're doing in the meantime or what kind of mood we're in. They are receiving us completely. And so, understanding that telepathic communication is a whole, complete understanding. And when you are learning tools and skills and techniques to be able to develop this ability, it's really helpful to kind of separate out those tools, right? And separate out how the information is coming to you. Does this make sense? Is this making sense for people? And so today I want to take you through a little kind of pathway of how information comes, telepathic information comes from animals through the senses. Each one of the senses parceled out, and then we will bring that to a practice that you can take with you. So, um, very often people say, and I'm going to get this one right out of the way first because the sense of hearing is not what you think it is in telepathy. Okay. And I'm going to call this one out right away. The sense of hearing, people will say sometimes when they're talking with me or they're in a class or in a group or and in the membership practice circle and say, I heard him say purple. And I say, you did not hear him say purple because animals don't talk in words, right? So that sense, there is a human filter on that sense of our hearing. Animals do not talk in words. So if you expect to hear words from an animal, you're expecting your filter to come into place. Okay. But the sense of hearing absolutely is a sense. Telepathic information comes through that sense. And it's not through words, it's through what the animal is hearing. It is through hearing what the animal is hearing, right? That's the sensory information that comes through our sense of hearing. And I just want to just put that in the room for everybody because, and I'm doing it first because it's the biggest number one misunderstanding is that we receive words. We don't. We receive concepts from animals, and that's a knowing. We can receive, I'll get into all of those in a minute, but we do not receive words from animals. They don't talk in terms of words. So just know when that happens for you that, okay, I felt the word purple. I understood the word hungry, right? It's you got an impression of a concept, and that you want to bring into understanding it as a concept, not as a word. Okay. Um, so that's number one. We can receive information through our sense of hearing, and that's going to be what the animal might be hearing. Okay. Anybody have questions about that one? No? Okay. Second sense is the sense of seeing, right? And yes, these all relate to the clairs, all the clairvoyance and clairaudience and all that. But I don't talk in terms of those because people like to get really hooked on being one of them, like labeling themselves as one or the other, or I'm clairvoyant, but I'm not clairsentient, or I'm clairsentient, but I'm not clairaudience. Like, oh, I don't believe it. You can develop you have all of these senses unless you don't, right? I mean, someone who doesn't have a sense of hearing or someone who doesn't have a sense of seeing, you're blind or you're deaf, and that might be true for you, but your other senses, you can pick up telepathy anyway. So, the sense of seeing, right? I like to talk of them as senses because it takes the having to be anything or having developed anything yet right out of the equation. And we are all walking around in sensory bodies, having sensory experiences. So this means that you are sensing. Okay. So you don't have to be clear anything in order to sense. So the sense of seeing, we can receive information through the sense of seeing that the animal is seeing. That's one sense. That's one way that the sense of seeing comes in, right? Is actually looking from the animal's perspective and seeing what from their viewpoint, from their perspective, with eyes in front of their face if they have them there, or eyes on the side of their head if they have them there, or eyes at the end of tentacles if they have them there, right? So there's that actual sense of their perspective and seeing through their eyes. There's also our sense of seeing where we can be seeing the animal actually doing something, resting in the sun or playing in the yard or eating their food. And that sense of seeing in your mind's eye is also possible, right? So they're kind of different, right? They're both a sense of seeing, but information can come through our sense of sight in two different ways. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody have questions about that or about the difference? Stop me if you do, whenever you do. Um, and that sense of sight that we have, when we receive that information, typically it forms, right? Like the visualization forms kind of right behind our eyes, right? Like you close your eyes and that's where you imagine things, right? Where you imagine the palm tree on the beach, you're going to kind of see it there, right? Like right behind your eyes, right behind your forehead, that third eye space. Um, I call it seeing behind your eyes. And And that's where that information can first come in, right? So if you have had the sense of seeing, you might have felt it there, you might have received it there. If you haven't experienced telepathic information coming in through your sense of sight, then that's a place that you can start to look for it. You can become aware of that space behind your eyes and be aware of receiving bits of information there, or a picture filling in, or a flash of an impression, right? Does this make sense? Is this helpful for people? If it's helpful, just type the thumbs up over there so I know you're picking up what I'm putting down, right? Um, so that sense of seeing, we rely on a lot because we are a very visual society, right? We are so visual. We value things visually. We read off of paper. We read off of billboards. We look at each other. We watch for facial expressions. We are a very visual culture, a visual animal, right? We're an animal too. And so that sense of seeing is often one that's very honed for people. That's kind of the first one. People say, "Oh, I saw this kind of like image of my dog sleeping in the basement." Like it's a natural way for us to receive information because it's such a trained avenue. It doesn't mean that these other avenues are not as the potential to develop them just as strongly, right? So that's a sense of seeing um, as our second sense, as an avenue for telepathic information to come in. The third one is our sense of smell, right? And that is, as human species, we is typically not really well developed, except in my mother. My mother has a sense of smell that yeah, it's obnoxious sometimes, I'm like, Mom, ah. But it's not really developed for us. So it's not often, very often you have to like be aware of wanting to pick up a sense of smell from an animal, right? Like what they are smelling, not smelling the animal. Although, let me talk about that in a minute. When we receive telepathic information from an animal through our sense of smell, typically it is what they are smelling, right? The helpful information is what they are smelling. When I tune in and I ask an animal how they feel about their food, just because I like the smell of sweet potatoes doesn't mean that they do. I go through their sense of smell. How do they feel about their food and what that is like to them? Is it a comforting smell? Is it a delicious smell? Is it a yummy smell? Or is it like a repelling smell? So that real sense of smelling through their senses is available to you in terms of a telepathic avenue. The other sense of smell that I invite you to leave open is your own sense of smell in sensing an animal, right? Your own sense of smell in sensing an animal. And this is really important because in this tool, this little practice, daily practice that I'm going to give you in another minute here, the one of the things that connects us really, really deeply with another being is smelling them, right? Like I love the smell of my cat's breath. Like people, my mother, like, oh my God, that's disgusting, But like I love that. It's a very intimate share, right? And breath is also a telepathic avenue. We all share breath. The vibration of the breath that comes out of me flows into Rosie here on my desk, and she picks up my vibration, and we have connection, right? Think about our human relationships, right? And a sense of smell with the people who you are close to in your life, the closest to. All my babies were born in the summer and they were like sweaty little babies. And that is such a sense of foreverness in my understanding of them as beings. But it brings about closeness, is my point, right? It brings about connection. So, our own sense of smell as a telepathic avenue to connect with an animal is powerful. Does that make sense, everybody? Anybody have questions about it? Is anybody feeling permission to Like, I hope you do, like to open up to connection. Just let it simply be connection with animals through our senses. Can you all see what's going on right here? Okay. They're licking each other. Oh, they stopped. Hi, Feds. She was just licking his head. But anyway, I'll leave that there for now because that's
I
really,
do have a question.
yeah. Daryl.
When you were talking about the sense of smell and how you can you'll smell what they smell.
Hmm.
I mean, in the literal meaning of that sentence, I would take that as like my cat is smelling, something, and now I'm smelling it. But I'm not so sure that's what you mean, because if that was the case, how would I know that it's not me smelling it and that it's him smelling it?
It's a good question. And it doesn't have, don't let it be more complicated than it is
Okay.
because both things can be true. Both things can be true. If you are in proximity with your cat and you tune in with your cat and he's smelling the cup of coffee that you have sitting over there in the morning, you can imagine him smelling that. You can be smelling that and you can be doing that together. And that can be very true, right? That in and of itself opens up the potential, more potential for you to be tuned in to what your cat is smelling, right? It's happening in real time. We're not making anything up here. You're not projecting anything into it. You are just opening yourself to, okay, we can be smelling the same thing at the same time, right? If your
Mm-hmm.
cat's in the other room and you are feeling in with your cat, you're imagining your cat, and you just say, hey, what do you smell? Right? Like, and you imagine being him and smelling through his senses, you can pick up what he's smelling. If he's outside, he might be smelling lavender or grass or the cows next door or, right? But just allowing that to be an avenue to connect with and understand um, his experience, right? And so that shared experience, if you're sharing space, you can be smelling the same thing. And how cool is that, right? And just being aware of that will help you to be more aware of what your cat might be smelling elsewhere, right? Like how many times, okay, this is what I'm saying. How many times do you think about what your cat is smelling?
Never.
Never, right? So just this conversation opens up these avenues for, oh my gosh, does he smell differently than me, right? Does he have more smell sense than me? Chances are yes, right? But do these things that I find pleasing, are they pleasing to him? Is what he finds pleasing to me? Probably hell no, right? Like there's all of it is in the room, right? All of it is potential for expanding these avenues for telepathy to come in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does the avenues of letting it expand. The question that led me to what you just said was if him feeling what he feels about the smell, how would that come through to me? So let's just say I did find get a connection and I'm like, oh, I'm tuning in and I am smelling something. Then how do I know how he feels about it? It just comes as a feeling to me.
Well, yes. And that can come through lots of things, a feeling, an impression. It would smell differently to you, right? Like, ooh, I smell the lavender, but like, ugh, you know, perfume that we find, essential oils. I love them. My animals don't, and don't ever put essential oils on your animals. You can use them in the house sparingly and with, asking them for feedback. But what is noxious to them, to us, we can tolerate. We just have a different sense. But being aware of, yes, like you said, Daryl, what else comes, right? It's not just the answer in the lavender. It might be, oh, how do you feel about that? Oh, is that a good smell? Is it a bad smell? Their food, that kind of thing, opening up to um, other aspects, other avenues that are there. So I'm going to keep going about the other sensory avenues, and the one that we land on finally is going to kind of bring it all together. So we talked about hearing, we talked about seeing, Did we talk about tasting? Tasting. Same thing as seeing and smelling, right? Tasting is the same. Um, our tastes are different than our animals, but we have the ability to um, share taste, right? If we share something with them, ice cream on my, little dish of ice cream, they can taste the ice cream. You can sense, imagine what they are eating. One of the things that we do in the level one animal communication course is we tune in with animals who might be eating things different than we are thinking. Melissa, you were just there, right? And eating, if you're a wild animal and you eat other wild animals, feeling in with what that is like. And not experiencing it from us as a human standpoint, but experiencing from the animal's perspective what that's like. That's where the understanding comes from. Misunderstanding comes from judging what another's experience is, right? Misunderstanding comes from judgment. That's gross. That's bad. I don't like it. We are at odds, right? Understanding comes from experiencing, understanding, being able to receive someone else's experience, and then being able to communicate about it. Right? And sometimes understanding is all that's needed. And I will use the word appreciate because at the bottom of appreciation is respect. Kind of all the way around appreciation is respect, right? So while I may not appreciate eating mice and voles, I can appreciate it for them because I can understand what it's like for them and I respect them. So I can respect that for them, right? So the sense of taste. We can receive what an animal is experiencing. We can understand what their experience is through their sense of taste. Then there's a sense of feeling in our body, right? Like literally feeling on your skin, feeling within your body. All of us have, um, you can always apply your body parts to an animal's body, right? Even if you're tuning in with a snake. You just kind of take the arms away and the rest of you is there, right? Like you can put yourself into an animal's experience and sense in your body what they may be sensing. And um, something really important about this avenue is, which is why it's so important to practice stillness and mindfulness, self-awareness, meditation, being in your body, feeling what your body is experiencing so that you can be open to what another is experiencing, right? If we don't even know that we have aches and pains or this and that, or our stomach is gurgling because we're hungry, because we've been overriding the fact that we need to go eat because we're busy, right? And you tune in with your animal, you can mistake those sensations as theirs when really they're ours. So there's a level of self-awareness that we want to develop. And that's part of being on a spiritual journey. It's a part of being in this life as aware people who appreciate interspecies relationships, right? So that sense of sensing in your body, right? And it can be on your skin, it can be an impression on your muscles, it could be a sensation in a joint. It can just be feeling the air on your skin, right? And feeling what an animal feels with the air on their skin. Does that one make sense? Anybody have questions about that? Um, and then the sense of, I'm going to cover two more. The sense of knowing, right? The sense of having a concept, which I talked about earlier, right? When I was talking about the sense of hearing, having a concept, an idea, a piece of meaning come into your awareness. And I call that a sense of knowing. You're not really quite sure how. It wasn't like you smelled anything. It wasn't like you got a sensation in your body. You didn't necessarily see anything in your mind's eye or through an animal's perspective. But there's just this knowing about what they might have experienced or how they might feel. And it kind of lives up here in your awareness, right? And those of you who have done this, like it kind of lives up here. And that is a really powerful telepathic sense route, right? Like that's really valuable to know, to have a sense of knowing what an animal is experiencing. And I want to make a little caveat here. A sense of knowing doesn't mean that we're right, right? Like we use the word I know very definitively in our culture, right? It's more like a sense of understanding, a sense of a concept that we call a sense of knowing, right? I think I'm gonna change how I term that. I think I'm gonna call it a sense of concept, right? Like the concept of vehicle, right? It could be a car, a bus, a truck, or whatever, but there's a concept there. We know what that is, right? And so it's about getting a concept into a download into like your mind's eye, and it kind of lives up here. Then there's also the sense of feeling. And the sense of feeling is more about emotion, right? How the animal is feeling, what they are feeling. And I will tell you, this is the number one gateway, the number one gateway to telepathic communication. It's so powerful because from that understanding the feeling, all the other avenues fill in. The detail starts to come, the visual starts to come, the sense of smell, the sounds that they may be hearing, what it does to their body. Do they like it? Do they not? Right? The sense of feeling is so powerful that tends to live like here in our heart space where we receive it, in our heart space and in our belly. And I'm kind of delineating these places for you so that you can be aware of those spaces and start to welcome information that comes there, right? And recognize it when it comes. If you don't know that that's where knowing comes or concepts come, or you don't know or aren't ready to receive feelings in this space, then you might miss them. So let those spaces be open for you, right? And they're going to apply to this daily practice that I'm going to give you in a minute. Um, with the sense of feeling, everything can fill in and think about it. That is the most, um, I guess, important information to create the foundation, right, for communication. It's how another being feels about something, how they are feeling, right? That's usually the first question when people come for a consultation, is how is he feeling about blah blah blah, right? How is he feeling about his relationship with so and so? How is he feeling about this new diagnosis that he has? Or how is he feeling about our new house? Right? Like it's about the feeling. And think about our human conversations that we have with people and our closest relationships, they often ask us about how we're feeling, right? And we might notice the ones who don't and not feel so close to them. I know people who they just and I'm like, yeah, yeah, hello, okay, bye, um, because our feelings matter. And to value that in our animal friends, right, is really respectful. It's really, really respectful. And that I want to give you permission to be open to how your animals are feeling. Allow yourself to receive that. Allow yourself to be curious and open up to a feeling that they might share with you. A feeling that they may not even intentionally share, but that you can tune in with, right? So, any questions about feeling? It's really powerful. I was having a conversation today with a private mentoring client, and she was so beautiful, and she said, I always get the feeling. I always get the feeling. It's those little details that I want. And so I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Just slow down and stay with the feeling, and the details will fill in. But you're getting the most important part. right? And sometimes when people come to learning, come to a class, they want to get the details because we're in this like checkbox culture of, yeah, I got that, and I got that, and I got that, and I got that, and they override the sense of feeling. They override the emotion that they are receiving from the animal because they think there's something more valuable. And I'm going to tell you there is not. And that's my favorite piece to teach is feel the feeling. And those of you who know how I teach and what I teach, it's like the bottom line for me, right? You're going to feel things. I'm a feeler. That's what makes us really good with animals, right? Like everybody here, you're feelers. And what happens, we turn that off sometimes because we've been hurt through our feelings. We've had big pains. Life is lifey and life is messy and life gets blah. And we tend to tune out of our feelings or out of receiving feelings and here out of receiving feelings from another when there might be vulnerability about how they're feeling, right? And we love our animal companions so much that we want them to feel good. And if we're afraid that they're not feeling good, then we're like, "Bark," and we wall that one off, right? So, those are the sensory avenues. And I want to just like a show of hands. Who really links in with a sense of seeing? Who feels like that is a strength for you? Just give me a high five or a thumbs up or hearts emoji or type into the chat or something. Sense of seeing. Who feels a sense of feeling in your body, sensations in your body, and that sensory level? Yeah, so tactile sensations, Sophia. Yeah. And how about the sense of smell or taste? How about a sense of hearing? And how about a sense of knowing? And how about a sense of feeling? Emotions. Yeah, yeah, really good. All of them are available. You don't have to be an only, right? Years ago, I had somebody come to a class and she said, "Oh, no, no, no. I see things. I don't feel things." And I said, "Bull," right? I said, "Oh, yes, you do. And we're here to acknowledge them. Maybe not all your own feelings, but you're here to learn animal communication. And that's going to involve opening up to feelings because that's why they're here. That's why they're here with us. They have their own journeys that they are on, but that's why they are why we love partnering with them so much is because we can be in our feelings with them, and it's okay. No matter what we're feeling, it's okay, and they help us to understand our feelings. And Jan, you said sensations, yeah. Yeah, and whatever one of those telepathic avenues stands out for you, like receive it, acknowledge it, be so grateful for it, and then say, okay, cool. Now I'm ready for the next one. I'm ready to start like some visual stuff. I'm ready to start seeing that. I'm ready to start feeling some emotions. I'm ready to start feeling whatever sensations on my body and just keep opening, right? Not challenging yourself because that doesn't work. This is softer than that, right? This is more subtle than that. So I want to give you here the daily practice that you can do. Daily practice that you can do. This is so easy, but I don't want you to skip it, right? And there are two parts to it, actually three parts. So, and you can do this if you have an animal in your family who is living with you now, or if you have an animal who is in spirit. It doesn't matter. Um, the first part of the daily practice is to do a sensory practice for yourself, right? So this is just an example. Morning with your coffee or your tea. There is such a sensory experience available to us in that, and sometimes like we're in a hurry, so we're just go, you know. I love to be mindful of my coffee in the morning. I absolutely love it. There is so much sensory information. There's the smell, there's the touch, there's the taste, there's the feeling, not just the feeling of it like going into my body and being warm and tasting really, really nutty and dark and Mm. More like night than by day, right? It tastes more like night than daytime, but I love it. It's like that break in the night into the day. Anyway, talk about sensory. I get totally into it. Um, but it's also the concept that comes in with having my morning coffee. Like it is such a full sensory experience. Everything is with that. There is the promise of a new day. I set my intention in that moment. I feel connected to like just all most other beings on the planet, human beings, right? Who enjoy that moment of just pure, like, yeah, I'm here today, you know? And there's also a historical, like very rooted, grounded, ancestral connection with drinking coffee, right? And being in the rainforest, the mountaintops, all like there is so much available from a telepathic experience, a sensory experience for yourself that's there that you can wake up those channels for yourself. So that's part one, right? It doesn't have to be your coffee, but I find that's a really easy one. And if you don't drink coffee, maybe you drink tea. If none of those things, it could be a morning shower, right? It could be a nighttime shower. It could be waking up in your bed and just feeling, just spending like sensory time. What does this feel like? How does my pillow feel? How does it smell? How does it feel to have the weight of the cat over here and the dog up against my back? You know now who I sleep with. You know, how does it feel to hear the pond waterfall outside? I can hear that from my bed, but I'm not really tuning, but I'm aware of it, right? And this is what that personal practice of a sensory daily telepathic sensing does for us. It wakes us up to what's available, right? And we have to be available, aware of what's potentially available in order to receive from the animals, right? When we do tune in intentionally. So that's the first piece. So there's a practice in that for you. It doesn't have to take long. It can take 45 seconds. It can take 45 minutes if you wanted to, right? But notice that and then notice each thing again. Notice each sensory channel and then notice each sensory channel again. So you're giving yourself repetition, right? Then your experience is to choose something that is shared, a shared sensory experience with your animal. It doesn't require that they're with you, although if they are, that's just, I don't know, simpler, I guess, right? But a shared sensory experience, so something that you and your animal have can share senses about, right? So here's an example. If your cat or your dog or your horse for that matter is having morning coffee with you, then you can kind of share that with them, right? Like if the cup is here and he's on my desk and I'm doing this, although I don't drink coffee at my desk, um, he can smell it. What does it smell like to him? Him, I'm talking about my sweetheart who's here, my orange long-haired friend who's here on my desk. And then a sense of the heat. What is it like for him to feel that hot cup of coffee next to his hip here, where it is, and feeling that through fur? What would that be like? Can I feel that too? Right? Is this making sense, you guys? It's not like you're not going full blown into how do you feel about coffee? That's not it. It's let's share this sensory experience so I can feel sensory information the way that you do, right? So I can just put that coffee here and what's it like to feel coffee through beautiful, thick orange hair on my left thigh? And just imagine what that's like. And then feeling what's possible for him, right? And then feeling in with, okay, this is my time to gather myself this morning. I'm gathering myself this morning. What's it like for you to gather yourself this morning? It's set an intention for your day. Be mindful in the moment and still here sharing this presence with me. And just open your sensing to what he may be sensing. Can he smell the coffee from where he is? Right? Just opening up those avenues, you guys, is so powerful. It forces us, calls us, right? It's an invitation, which if we take up the invitation, it forces us to stop thinking and tune in on a sensory level to what our sweet animal friends are tuning in with, what their experience is on a sensory level. If you do this, I'm not kidding, you do this every day for just a couple of minutes, your sense of awareness about what your animals are experiencing is going to like, right? Telepathy isn't a trajectory like this, although I'm sure in physics there's a way to describe it that way, but it's like a dimensional expansion. It's expansion. It's not linear. And this is a way to develop these avenues of sensing so that they're open and ready for you to receive telepathic communication from animals. The other third piece here in this, and I don't want to make it complicated. It sounds it. I mean, I think it's easy, but I don't mean easy. I think it's clear. I want it to be clear, right? Um, so the first piece is to wake up all of your telepathic sensing in whatever it is. It's your coffee, it's your shower, you're sitting outside, just listening to the birds, feeling the brisk wind, whatever it is, let it be a container. Let it be small, right? It's not taking in the whole everything everywhere, right? It's one small container to develop those skills. Then you're going to, if the animal is near you, you can share that with them and just experience what it's like to be in that moment, be in that experience as them, right? And then if it happens that your animal, let's say you have a horse who's at the barn and you're not at the barn, or you have an animal in spirit, you can do this around this second part. The first part you do for yourself, but then the second part you can do around something that you have experienced together. And what's coming to me is like with my horses, I loved all these for me today are morning time. I don't know. But I loved that sound in the morning. It could be summer, it could be winter, but giving them their hay and the smell of the hay, which makes me sneeze, but I love the smell of hay, and the sound of them chewing, sound of horses chewing, and the smell of the hay, and how they pick it up. And it's like they're eating spaghetti because they get every last little blade of the hay. They're like little filigrees, and it's such a sensory experience. And it is to them. Like they are filling their bellies, but it's going slow. Like imagine having that big, big belly and you're like eating little strands of hay. I'd be like, right, give me the spaghetti. But it's a sensory experience for them. And partnering on something like that, right? Like, okay, I hear that sound. What's that sound like inside your head with your molars chewing? What's that like? And just spend a moment experiencing what that might be like. You don't have to know. You're just getting the physical sensation, the sound sensation. What are they hearing with that going on inside their head? Think of how loud that is outside. I can hear them from way over there. Like, what is that like inside their own head? Right? What is the taste like or the texture inside their mouth? And just sharing in that appreciation, as well as the feeling of being sated, right? Satiation, being satisfied by eating. And just sharing in that moment what the smells are available, the sounds that are available, both internally and externally. And again, you don't have to do it for a long, long time. A minute, 3 minutes, 20 minutes if you like it. If you have an animal in spirit, you can do the second part around something that you shared in the past, right? Perhaps it was lying on the bed together or lying outside on the patio and just stroking their hair and being able to see their hair and the texture of their hair. Like all of this, you guys, it's not even imagining, it's recalling, right? And it gets you into sensory mode. Who here, just when I said that, seeing the texture of their hair? Who can see the texture of an animal friend who is in spirit of their hair? Absolutely, right? Somebody's they're coarse, somebody's really smooth, some are longer, some are shorter, some are really, really close together. Some of them were clumped and matted, and always a problem with the hair. Like, but you can call it, you can recall it, and you can experience it again sensory wise. right? And then you can just feel in with what was that like for them to feel my hand stroking their hair? How did that feel underneath the hair to have my fingers touching them? And just allow yourself to let go into what that would be like. Do you see how there's no attachment to these things? You don't have to be right or wrong. This is not about being accurate, and all horses hear like a construction site in their ears when they're chewing, like that's not what we're after. It's it's your own experience in experiencing sensory information from your own perspective, waking up your senses because you're experiencing it in your own perspective, and then being open to what a sensory experience is that your animal friend is having, whether in body or in spirit. Who feels like you could do that every day? Who feels like sit there not sure? Who feels and I want to know why. Why? I can't hear you.
because my self-discipline is non-existent.
Okay.
So
Okay. So this is beautiful. This is so beautiful and so true. But thank you for being so honest, right? Like, yes, yes, that's a great reason. And it has nothing to do with your sensory abilities or your telepathic abilities or what you believe is possible. It's just about, hey,
no,
am I going to do
yeah,
this or not? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So that's number one. You gotta like show up. Right.
yeah.
That's always what it is. You got to show up. You got to step in and say, "Oh yeah, I'm in it. I'm in it to experience it." Right. But thank you for that. Thank you for putting that here. Um, and it doesn't have to be big. Let it be enjoyable, right? Just kind of, and we all struggle with that. Like I do too. I rarely do anything consistently. Um, but who would like to do this, experience this every day? Yeah. Yeah. Do you believe it would help you open your telepathic channels? Do you believe it would help you become aware of sensory information that your animals are picking up and experiencing, right? It's kind of like this. This is what I'm getting about it right now. It's kind of like, if I start speaking French, everybody else in my house is going to start speaking a little bit of French, right? Animals are consistently receiving sensory information, telepathic information. If I start practicing a little bit and I tune in with them, I'm going to start picking up telepathic information. So it's kind of the reverse, right?
Mhm.
They can adapt if I started giving all of my, calling him a different name and, whatever, Mandarin or whatever, he's going to respond because he's picking up the telepathy. If I start tuning into his sensory experiences, I'm going to start picking up on what else he's thinking about, how he's feeling. And it's not always going to be just when I sit down and intend to do it because Kristen told me to. It's going to be on the fly. It's going to be when you're relaxing, when you're going to bed, when you're driving your car. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. So I came here today saying, I don't know if I can promise this. I will tell you, I can promise you that you will change and your telepathic abilities will open up if you apply this every day. So it's twofold, if not threefold, right? A three-part practice, and it doesn't have to take long. So, um, who has questions? Anybody have a question? What's one thing that resonates? Like one thing that you're taking with you to put into like everybody's got a backpack of telepathic tools and techniques and experiences. Successful experiences. I'll also promise that. I can promise you that we can find one. um, People talk themselves out of it, but I promise you we will identify one. But at least one. But so what are you taking with you that you can put into your telepathic toolkit backpack? Jan says no judging. Love it. Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to pop in on this, Jan. This is really good. Like, don't judge what you're receiving either, right? These are not life and death questions. These are not like big weighty things. This is just an experience. Because when we judge what we get or didn't get as being not good enough, or oh damn it, I missed it again, or whatever, like we misunderstand ourselves. We separate from ourselves, and it never works. Sophia says, staying open to the flow. Love it. Daryl, expansion comes slowly with practice. Yeah. Yes. And then it starts to just open up, right? So I want to say slowly is that linear kind of thing, right? We think about it has to go the x-axis and up the y-axis, and slowly we're going to get there. It's expansive, right? Sometimes the rose blossoms like that's expanding, and sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, it's taking forever, ever, and you go out the next day, it's like, punk, they're all open. It happened overnight. It happened within 2 hours. You never know. And one experience can come to fruition very, very quickly. The consistency is what can take a little bit of continuation and time and practice and experience and recognizing the experience. Yeah. Um, Cynthia said, identifying what I might share with your animal. Could be her food. It could be a little, if you have a little thing of cat grass growing, or plants that she wants to eat, like mine do. Um, you know, um,
Mhm.
what it's like sleeping on her bed. What it's like sitting behind your back on your chair, right? Um, Let it be simple. If you have questions about this, guys, reach out to me. I want to support you in getting this. And I hope I hope it was helpful. So there you go. There you have it. A telepathic practice, a little practice that you can practice every day to develop your telepathic sensing. And it'll change you. It'll change your communication with animals. So that's what I have for you, everybody. If you are not in the free Facebook group and you got this link from email, then come join me there. It's Animal Communication Circle, free community with Kristen Hadley is the place, and we do this every week. So, all right. All my love, take with you all of my support, and you got this. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kristen.
Thank you.